Welcome everybody to the video. We are talking Empire and the Empire fleets. I will break down what ships, why we're using them, key abilities, run through some gameplay footage, and we'll also discuss whether or not this should be the first fleet you farm in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. So let's start there and talk about farming. If you've been following my farming guide card in the top right corner, I will have recommended, right, Houndstooth, TIE Fighter Pilot, and Darth Vader's TIE Advanced to get you going as the basis of a fleet and as characters who could work in the early parts of the game with some Empire synergy. I didn't give much direction outside of, those few ships with Houndstooth, meaning like if you got Houndstooth early, you'd start finishing kind of ahead of everyone, how critical that ship is. But with a couple additions to that fleet, those ships you already have can actually beat the meta. And it's not much to get there. We're talking, Gauntlet Starfighter adding and TIE Bomber in addition to, TIE Advanced, the Imperial TIE Fighter, and Thrawn's Chimaera. So let's start with the capital ship. For all intents and purposes, I'm using Chimaera. A lot of videos out there all state, Tarkin's Executrix is the best. Mine isn't geared up all that much, and I wanted to make it work with Thrawn because most people are actually going to have Thrawn as a character geared up higher than Tarkin because Thrawn's such a critical character. So I wanted to make it work with Thrawn so it fit in with my farm guide as well. So let's actually talk about why Thrawn actually works in this scenario. So the fleet we're going to be targeting here is the Negotiator, which I think has the almost overwhelming amount of the meta right now. The key thing against the Negotiator, right, is always, if you can, you got to get Anakin down to the yellow, the red, trigger unending loyalty, whatever it is. Sometimes the AI is a little bit different on what that likes, but it's getting some big hits on Anakin so you don't start off with that AoE daze from the Negotiator. So let's talk about what Thrawn can do to help in that regard. So let's look at his unique. The key thing here, he's going to give 80%, right, doubled on Empire, critical damage with a bonus 15% critical chance. That's key because what we're going to do is we're going to start with a starting lineup of Gauntlet Starfighter, TIE Fighter Pilot, and TIE Bomber. Right, so TIE Fighter Pilot and Gauntlet Starfighter are going to outrun most of the Negotiator fleet. So you're probably going to get a couple whacks at Anakin off the get-go. So if the TIE Fighter Pilot's on a special ability, if he crits with this 80% critical damage gain and the actual critical chance, so you actually have more likely of doing it, you have a good chance of actually landing a big hit on Anakin and triggering unending loyalty right from the get-go. The other nice thing about Thrawn is his ultimate's kind of pretty quick to get to, and you could annihilate any ship, so it definitely helps when you're able to get there. So that small piece more or less is what the key here is for Thrawn, and that's all for the beginning of the matchup. If you're looking at why some people like Tarkin, if you're looking at his unique, he stacks a lot of offense, but it's for debuffed enemies, right? So at the very beginning of the battle, there's not really any debuffed enemies, so you're not getting that offensive, juggernaut stacking with all the turn meter, right, from destroying the ships, and his also a special ability which grants turn meter. That train doesn't get going until a little later on. So for the first, couple turns of the battle, I actually like Thrawn in that scenario. And if you could turn the battle and you're tied right away, I don't know how much the extra offense of Tarkin really helps or puts him on this pedestal way above Thrawn. So the key to this fleet is Gauntlet Starfighter, and this one's going to be the toughest farm for you. This is obviously the Biston of the Rebels, and again, we go to his unique, right? 20 speed and gains another 15 for each other ally. So when you got TIE Bomber and you got TIE Fighter Pilot in there, that's another 50 speed. And then the critical thing here actually is the granting 25% and with double for Empire, so you're getting 50% extra defense to all your allies, and that's going to make the TIE Bomber extra beefy. He's also critical because he could dispel all the debuffs. So if you do get hit with the AoE or the buff immunities and healing immunities from Anakin, this can cleanse you up real fast and get your team right back on track. And then his special here can land buff immunity. If you could strike that on Anakin at the beginning as well, that also can tilt your, the battle in your favor, because it's going to prevent Anakin from getting all those buffs when Unending Loyalty triggers. So next up, TIE Fighter pilot, and really here is all speed, right? TIE Fighter pilot, we're looking at 202 speed. Mine's relic 3. Yes, it makes a difference in taking it up. You need a little bit of survivability, and that extra speed boost helps. The other cool thing about TIE Fighter pilot is every time he evades an attack, he's granting 25% turn meter. He tends to evade a lot, and when he uses his special, he triggers Foresight. Where's the special? Right here. Yeah, there we go. He gives Foresight, so that when he evades, he's granting turn meter to Thrawn. So I have actually seen a lot of the times Thrawn, being one of the slowest capital ships, actually can outrun Negotiator if they try to hit TIE Fighter pilot and he evades in the first round there. And then, the real juggernaut and the real MVP here is TIE Bomber. And let's just look at it here, right? 20% max protection for each active Empire ally, including the capital ship. So we're running a full Empire starting lineup here, so that makes them super thick. The one thing with TIE Bomber is we need target locks on the field to get the taunt up. TIE Fighter pilot has a chance to trigger that on his basic, and we'll typically use Vader as the first reinforcement, and his basic is guaranteed to land target lock. The other key thing here is when enemies are burning, right? Minus 25% offense, doubled for light side enemies, so minus 50% offense. Once that TIE Fighter can get burning on the field, it's really going to neuter the damage that like Anakin, Ahsoka, and Fives can do. The kind of the hard hitters on the Negotiator fleet. And of course, with the burning, it also dispels all the buffs on the enemies too, which also is a big help. So there you go. That's your starting lineup, and really you only need TIE Advance as the next one. You don't have to have this massive Empire fleet, right? And his reinforcement ability, you're going to inflict offense, or you're going to inflict damage over time on all the ships. And a lot of the times, this might actually just kill off Anakin all by itself without even you attacking him. And as mentioned, you do get to grant target lock on your basic, and on his special, you can dispel buffs if the enemy's target lock, so it helps you kind of navigate whatever tanks they have out there. And then of course the only other critical person in the lineup is Houndstooth. Bringing in Houndstooth is obviously going to be critical for this, or if you don't have one of these ships up and running, right, you're kind of in the early stages of putting this together, Houndstooth can be a great starter in the fleet, or it can be your first reinforcement, however it works for you. So before you hop into battle, just a couple extra thoughts here. I'm using Relic 3, Vader, TIE Fighter pilot, Thrawn, and then a maxed out TIE Bomber and Gear 12 Gauntlet. Not super crazy requirements, considering Thrawn and Vader, you're likely to take them up to those levels or past. And I'm going to be going up against, pretty close, like either Relic 7 or close to Relic 7 Negotiators. So it's definitely stepping up a few tiers. And I so far with all my testing, I'm hitting at about a 75% success rate, which is not bad. But again, it's not as clean as the Rebel wins. I don't know what this fleet looks like fully geared out like Relic 7, like my Rebels. But as of right now, if you were only to farm one, Empire or Rebels, if you had to just pick one, the answer is still Rebels, because Rebels can take out both Negotiator and Malevolence with ease. So far, my success rate against Malevolence isn't all that great yet. I'm still tinkering with the lineups. I've gotten a few wins, but again, not nearly as great. And my Negotiator wins are about 75%, which is pretty good. Pretty good considering this is, we got more or less 4 ships here. And not anywhere close to Relic 7. If you had to farm just one, Rebels is still the way to go. But if you want to have multiple fleets, which most people should, definitely farm this one first, because this will get you climbing that fleet arena ladder quickly while you work on Rebels or Negotiator, whatever your next fleet will be. And then this offers you a solid additional fleet, right, for Grand Arena, territory wars, territory battles, whatever it is. This is an extra tool kind of in your toolkit. All right, so let's get onto the footage. All right, so let's hop into battle. Five's going to go first. and then TIE Fighter Pilot's going to second, and we're going to land a critical hit on Anakin, which is great news. And then Gauntlet's going to go second, and he's going to follow that up with a buff immunity. So that is literally your ideal beginning right there. And then we drop Burning, obviously get that out as fast as we possibly can. And now the key here is going to be just to get Anakin out. So we're going to have to watch the taunts. We're going to have to pay attention to all the things and kind of pick our moment to get Anakin out of here. So we got double taunts up. So this is where it gets tricky. So because we land the buff immunity on Anakin, when the Unending Loyalty expires, he's sitting there with just terrible, terrible health. And a quick AoE from Thrawn quickly takes out Anakin. And now we're off to the races and smooth sailing the rest of the way. And by the end of this battle, we will not have lost a single ship. Alright, so let's hop into another battle, and this one's going to go the exact opposite on the beginning. We're not going to crit, and we're not going to land buff immunity on Anakin. But the cool thing is what happens is you can see the TIE Fighter pilot dodges, and Thrawn out races. Again, one of the slowest capital ships goes before the super speedy Negotiator. So by doing so, I can call in TIE Fighter with his basic, fortunately land the target lock, and then trigger taunt on TIE Bomber. But it quickly gets cleared away by Y-Wing. But you can see how that could be beneficial in different scenarios. So again, we got the double taunt going on. We got to navigate this and find a way to get Anakin out. And again, we're fortunate enough with a Thrawn AoE was strong enough to punch out Anakin. And just like the last battle, once he's out and we still have all 4 of our ships sitting in here, we are off to the races because it's very hard for them to get past TIE Bomber. And without Anakin in there, there's no more buff immunities and all and healing immunities. So TIE Bomber's pretty thick the rest of the way through this. All right, so let's look at one last battle, and this one will be with Houndstooth in the opponent lineup. This is a pretty popular Negotiator lineup. I find when people first get unlock Negotiator, they might not have Y-Wing yet, so they like to use Houndstooth. This one can be a little tricky because the second you hit Anakin that first time, Houndstooths typically will go depending on the ships you're using. But in this case, our TIE Fighter pilot and our Gauntlet Starfighter are fast enough that they'll actually both get to go before that bonus turn meter triggers Houndstooth's turn. Same formula though, drop that burning out there, and then Gauntlet can dispel all the garbage on us. And again, so we are able to clear the taunt on Y-Wing, and Houndstooth never had one, and we get an easy open shot on Anakin. And like the last 2 battles, Anakin's out of there. We still have our 4 starting ships, and it's kind of game, set, match after that. So those are 3 kind of different variations on how to win with Empire against some high-end Negotiator teams. If you find yourself in a situation where this is the first fleet you're farming, this can absolutely take you to the top of your arena shard, depending on what's up there, right? If you got to slog through a top 50 full of Negotiators, you might not hold all that well on defense. But if it's, if you're dealing with a younger shard where maybe there's only 5 Negotiators, 10 Negotiators up there, or maybe there's not even any, this will easily get you to the top of the mountain. And you'll collect all those juicy rewards, and then that'll just allow you to farm up and improve either this fleet working on your rebels, or building the basis of your own negotiator fleet. Either way, it's going to put you in a pretty cool position, especially early game players and even later game players. I've obviously been playing for, you know, a while now, and I just really got this Empire fleet up and running, and it has been awesome in GAC for me. So I'll leave I'll leave some more footage here at the end. I will show you what it looks like with Houndstooth in the starting lineup. I was able to get a couple wins, but it wasn't nearly as successful as the full Empire starting lineup. So I'll leave that for you to watch at the end. So that's what I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please give it a like, please subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all in the next video.